My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. It is Saturday, May 17, 2025. It's currently 5:14 a.m. And the images you will see uploaded to the Google Drive on this day is exposing what is the ongoing spiritual attacks. This is the demon-possessed that are gang stalking, as the evidence proves. But the demon-possessed are also engaged in what you need to understand is psychological warfare, which is spiritual in nature. And also the spiritual realm is also shown to you, demonstrated to you in the evidence of gang stalking. In that specific environment, that's the spiritual realm. Light that's manifesting out of nowhere in the darkness, that's the spiritual realm. It is impossible. It is supernatural. It is not a natural event or something that is the product of the natural environment, where you have the sun that's above the building and the sun is remaining over the same building for 11 hours. Supernatural. You have what is the distinction when you are looking at the ground, you're looking at the environment, and you see the distinction between the shade and sunlight that's touching everything, and there's a distinction between where the light is touching and where the light is not touching. And yet where it appears that that light is not touching, I'm showing you what is my shadow in the shade, and not just that's supernatural, and not just my shadow in the shade, but my shadow that is as tall as I am, my shadow that is standing upright like my person is. That's supernatural. My shadow that is at a distance away from my person, upright on the walls, for example, like I'm documenting, where the demon possessed, referring to themselves as the Ontario Police Department, are engaging in what is criminal surveillance, which is also a satanic system of monitoring. They're gang stalkers, and they're doing that with the people of the state. That's supernatural. That environment is supernatural, and the behavior of the demon possessed, it's also supernatural. They're engaging in all manner of demonic activity right in front of your face. With regard to the audible noise about what you are looking at in the sky space, you see the helicopter, but yet the sound of the helicopter is amplified in volume. It's engaging in what is, it's coexisting with what is the creation of a earthquake-like sensational activity inside of the dwelling place, where demons are gang stalking by crossing path, flying over that apartment where the sun is sitting for 11 hours, and where your shadow is appearing upright on the ceilings and upright at a distance away from you, and multiple shadows and light is traveling in through the air, on the ceilings, and in motion, always traveling all around the surfaces. This is the environment where the demons are engaging in gang stalking, helicopter, and even the sound of that helicopter activity is amplified in volume, meaning it is louder than the actual helicopter sounds where it's in the sky space and I am on the ground inside of the apartment, where that entity is flying over by helicopter. And that is also observable when I am inside of any location and I step outside to get video of the helicopters that are gang stalking me, no matter how far away they are from me. And that is evident through what is the fake sun that's over the top of my head, and the helicopter is miles away. In addition to that, I can hear the helicopter inside of my office or inside of my apartment or inside of the vehicle or whatever it is that I'm at, where they're stalking with audible activity. That is designed to psychologically torture. It's designed to falsely depict the character of the targeted individual, who would claim that, for example, look at how that looks on the surface, upon not examining the substance of federal group stalking and monitoring, by the way. You're only supposed to look at the surface. Someone would allege that helicopters are stalking them, following them around. However, the targeted individual would put it in an unsophisticated manner, just stating outright, which the entity is also psychologically torturing an American citizen in order to get that sort of reaction, because the purpose of gang stalking in such satanic means is to criminally defame that targeted individual and also to take their life, to steal from them, derive whatever benefit that the demon possessed are seeking to acquire, to procure, in a criminal means, and it is through the provision of Satan. These are demons. And so the surface assessment of the circumstances is where you are stating something like, oh, well, helicopters are following me everywhere. But all you're saying is, so say someone comes and tells me, oh my goodness, everywhere I go, helicopters are following me. They're stalking me. Someone is stalking me in helicopters. And then they're like, okay, look, let's go outside. I'll show you right now. And we go outside. I'm witnessing what this person is telling me, but I see the helicopter miles away flying over the mountains, nowhere near the targeted individual's physical person. They're flying at a distance. And no one else in that environment is under any circumstances concerned about any helicopter activity either. And you are under no circumstances ever looking up in the sky and noticing that the sun is over your house, your home, wherever it is that you remain, from sunrise until sunset. That is the surface level assessment of the circumstances where someone is making any sort of allegations pursuant to the demon possessed criminal pattern of conduct, and that is designed to falsely depict the character of that targeted individual who lacks knowledge pertaining to the satanic means of targeting, being physically seen at a distance, but yet targeting through the audible sound of whatever that demon who is targeting that person is engaging in. And that is also you're not going to just keep it what would be, because anybody could allege and manufacture that same allegation, if you will, now that I'm exposing what the demon possessed do. But again, this is nothing to worry about, because you are not going to be able to prove that you're being gang stalked unless you are actually being gang stalked. The police aren't going to engage in targeting someone and not providing a wealth of evidence pursuant to the fact that they are indeed targeting. Surveillance is already underway, so we're all being targeted, if you're understanding what that means. The government has no constitutional right to keep us under surveillance, and that's in fact what is happening, and it's pursuant to monitoring, and it's demonic. In addition to that, it's happening on communication devices. It's underway on the venue of the internet, where you are understanding that there is no privacy beyond that. This is where you are understanding that you are being targeted for purposes of being subject to psychological torture, to mentally torment that person. This is something that you can document, aside from somebody just stating, well, Who cares? Because the helicopter might be miles away over there, but they're targeting me with amplified audible activity while they're looking at Erica Lorraine Spencer's documentation pursuant to how you are able to prosecute a government for targeting even where they're looking like on the surface that they're not focused on you whatsoever. So, in other words, stating that that's an unconstitutional and overly broad means of prosecuting, and it's not, because the entity is doing so in the specific environment. Number one, so the environment is going to reflect that you're being targeted. The people of the state are going to demonstrate that you are being targeted as well, as they share in that pattern of conduct, which you will also be able to document. And they are also engaging in what is not just, for example, and I'm just using only helicopter as an example. They are also engaging in what is means of specifically targeting you, harassing you, kidnapping you, stealing from you, obstructing your documentation methods, which again, you would document that. The entity that is doing so is going to be both targeting you with their behavior, which is demonic, but it's also happening in that demonic environment, which is not the shared experience of everyone that is under surveillance. And so it is not overbroad. It is not the ability for everyone to prosecute the government for gang stalking. But I want to be clear, this is not an unconstitutional, vulnerable position of law enforcement, because the state has no right in the United States to be keeping us under surveillance in the first place. So in many ways, this is damage that they have done to themselves while engaging in what is unconstitutional means of violating the privacies of American citizens who are not violating any law, who are not under investigation. The entity is a bunch of demons engaging in what is a satanic and malicious and secret means of invading all of our privacy and keeping us under surveillance. So to claim that, well, anybody can prosecute us now because the P.O.C. is asserting that anyone could just say, well, there's a helicopter over there and they're targeting me. And that is not the evidence of the P.O.C. at all. And in which case anyone could assert that. And by the way, Tracy Banks cannot assert or prove what it is that I have asserted. Tracy Banks is not subject to the pattern of conduct in the way that I am. Well, she's not subject to the pattern of conduct at all. She's engaged in the pattern of conduct against another person, and the evidence purely, directly, and plainly demonstrates that. And she shares the same status as every other person distinct from myself, whose position and status is directly opposed to mine. And that is also evident in the evidence, not only the pattern of conduct by the entity directly and vicariously, but the environment showing targeting of a specific person, and that is myself. All right. No, you are not able to just go around and accuse the government, because I'm not that that's a legitimate concern for where the government's engaging in criminal activity in the first place, and that's my point. But nonetheless, I'm making what is very much a evidence-based assessment regarding the inability to fraudulently claim that you're being targeted by the state, just based on the fact that the demons are engaging in what is satanic means, that is malicious means, fully targeting you and appearing to, and that's on purpose, appearing to be doing anything but that. That's to falsely depict the character of the targeted individual. And that's the demon-possessed purpose. That's also very highly malicious when the entity is engaging in what is criminally defaming your character, doing so in courts, adjudicating over your mental health, criminally misusing laws in order to do so. They're doing that because they intend to keep you in a facility. That's a kidnapping when it's an unlawful act by that government that has no jurisdiction under the law, by the way, while they're keeping you under surveillance, and they're abusing that fictitious exercise of authority under the law for purposes of targeting you. I mean, that's malice upon malice upon malice. And then you're looking at my hundreds of videos of that same entity that's engaged in criminal defamation and repeated kidnappings, stalking in plain view. And while these demons know that they're being documented, that's speaking to their mental illness, their psychopathic and delusional mind state, to still be doing it at this juncture in evidence. No one is reasonably questioning not only what the Ontario Police Department, that is the state of California, is doing, but their mind state as they do it. Okay, with that in mind, I want to get to, it is, again, May 17, 2025. What you will see uploaded in the images is the entity that is engaged in what is spiritually attacking. And this is including Tracy Banks and her sex partner, Jason Isaac Fields. These two demons in particular are both obsessed, and they are both obsessed with monitoring me. And that is psychological warfare. That is inhumane, that is unethical. And the entity that is gang stalking, I want to be clear, the demons of the Ontario Police Department, they're engaged in spiritually attacking as well. This is what the demon possessed are doing. And the entity is also engaged in gang stalking. And the P.O.C, the prosecution of gang stalkers, is to inform everyone about that spiritual realm, which is inevitable. So this is not something that I'm just talking about and I'm just stating, oh, you have to just close your eyes and just think hard enough about it and believe it. No, you're looking at tangible evidence, which is insurmountable and impossible to be disregarded, such as a sun sitting over one building in one city at one apartment complex for 11 hours. While coexisting with what is everyone's basic understanding in the United States, by the way, at least, and but I would say through the world. I'm going to go ahead and venture with the world, because everybody getting past fifth grade has a basic understanding about what we've been conditioned to understand about the natural environment. And if the sun is in Texas and the sun is in Florida and New York and in Boston, then what is sitting over the apartment building where I am documenting the prolonged maintenance of the sun, where I'm also documenting what is identified stalking in a malicious manner, so that it's not supposed to be recognized by the one who would assert that the government is targeting them, including in helicopters, in concert with the population. But that entity is engaged in spiritual attack as well, psychological torture as well, obsession as well, and it's of a spiritual nature. In the same way that gang stalking is demonic activity. Demonic activity is spiritual. It's spiritually dark. It's wicked. It's twisted, but in it is spiritual. So the entity is engaging in this, and this is what, again, the sex partner, the satanic kingdom spouse duo, Jason Isaac Fields, who's engaged in years of abusing a government position in order to target me, and also repeatedly engaged in what is kidnapping me as an entity with the intent to obstruct justice, with the intent to steal property from me, personal property, real property, intellectual property, and profit from it, with the intent to harass and psychologically torture me in order to further achieve that unlawful and inhumane purpose of the government targeting in the first place and spiritually attacking in the first place, which is to drive the ordinary targeted individual to the point of suicidal ideation, perhaps even inflicting harm on other people that they are accusing of things which, again, everyone that is gang stalking is maintaining that demeanor of being nonchalant, disinterested, ignorant, couldn't be least concerned about. This is the surface level assessment, but again, even when you pay attention, you can see that they're doing everything but that. It's a very unpersuasive and psychopathic. They're revealing their mental illness, why they fail in that outward demeanor, and while they engage in that, you're always seeing them stalking. And stalking is being in the path while that fake sun sits over me. So you are not acting like you're not stalking when you're in the specific environment, and this is just directly rebutting the whole purpose and the outward appearance of what gang stalking is supposed to look like as far as the target individual is concerned, and what gang stalking is supposed to result in as far as the targeted individual is concerned. So the entity is engaging in that, and Jason Isaac Fields is again representing the corrupt government. The corrupt government and documented terrorists and sex offenders like Jason Isaac Fields will never be permitted in my presence. This is someone who will be only documented and subject to what is a federal prosecution. This is someone who is already subject to federal prison, engaging in what is repeatedly kidnapping me and stealing my property and profiting from it, misrepresenting it as their own, conspiring with Tracy Banks, who you see the psychopath and the multiple personalities she has, her bloodthirsty appetite, her ongoing incessant obsession practicing of witchcraft that's ineffective, and yet this delusional psychopath doesn't know anything else to do, which is a threat to the public. You don't know that you should stop targeting somebody? That's somebody that needs to be locked up for her own good and for the good of the public. But you're understanding that Jason Isaac Fields shares in that. He's been having sex with that. He's been engaging in sex rituals, worshiping Satan with that. Now that in and of itself would be private activity, but for Jason being a government actor and criminally targeting me and misusing his position in the government to target me and facilitating Tracy Banks' ability to target me and manufacture criminal charges, manufacture mental illness, manufacture what is a means of targeting me with the state, with the entity altogether, including through repeated acts of kidnapping. All right, this is something that Jason Isaac Fields has been engaged in for years, and Jason Isaac Fields is still engaging in what is spiritually monitoring me. This is somebody who is obsessed, and this is somebody that is literally a sex offender. This is somebody that is engaging in that, doing so for, this is also showing how psychotic. I'm asleep. These demons are obsessing over me as I sleep. 12 o'clock in the morning, just like the demon that's pacing in the Unit 55. I'm documenting how they're engaging in the P.O.C. and the physical. These demons are obsessing and not sleeping while at 12 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Why aren't these demons asleep? Like, these demon-possessed people are obsessed with me, and they will never have any actual relation with me. And as I document it, I do it for a reason, because the spiritual realm is real. And also, number two, demons, demon-possessed people, spiritual attacks, the use of witchcraft to do so is very real. Those who are in Christ Jesus, those who are Holy Spirit-filled and sealed, this is something that, again, Christ Jesus has given us victory over. And so it is something that is informing, not something that is spreading fear, but it is information, because the entity that's engaged in this targeting system in the U.S. in particular, they like to spread around. It's part of the pattern of conduct of making sure that the entity is both targeting American citizens, keeping everyone under surveillance, and also maintaining a very common and heavily referenced narrative, like a quote-unquote unspoken truism, that those that allege that they're being targeted in this country are mentally ill. And that is malicious. It's irresponsible for those that ignorantly do so. And it's also patently false. Okay, the entity is targeting, and there are those that are in this country that assert that they're being targeted, and they're not. And that is also serving the narrative of the demon-possessed who are gang stalking. That's serving the same purpose. Okay, the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct and spiritual attacks by those who are obsessed, such as Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks, both demons together, and they are both going to be subject to what is indefinite removal from, and by removal I mean if they ever come into my presence outside of being prosecuted, then they're going to be subject to a prosecution. Tracy Banks belongs in a mental asylum. I've already documented this. The evidence supports that, and that's what justice requires when you live through the government's attempt on your life, terrorism, and then you have to single-handedly investigate it in order to prove it, and also force the government to prosecute itself. Understand the government had no intention in doing so. This is the same for Tracy Banks. This is the same for the people of the state. This is the same for demons, corrupt actors like Jason Isaac Fields. All right, so don't be confused. The position of the Ontario Police Department and the position of gang stalkers like Jason Isaac Fields is not distinct. It's not different at all. Okay, they are both engaged in spiritually attacking me to date. They are both engaged in what is repeated acts of kidnapping, harassment, terrorism, psychological torture. And that's to date. And they are both delusional while they continuously do so. And they have been fully exposed to that end. They are under no circumstances welcomed in my presence. I wouldn't welcome no demon of the Ontario Police Department. I don't welcome any demons such as, I'm going to prosecute Tracy Banks. I'm going to prosecute the government. I'm going to prosecute the people of the state. I'm going to prosecute gang stalkers such as Jason Isaac Fields in whatever position that he abused in order to target me. He is unworthy. He is disqualified. He is unfit to be in law enforcement, any mode of law enforcement, and he belongs in federal prison. And it is a tragic injustice, and it is also different treatment under the law that equally applies to everyone, were he not subject to federal prison, but yet a demon of the Ontario Police Department is. And that's exactly what justice requires. Okay, his sex partner, Tracy Banks, belongs in a mental asylum, and so does Jason Isaac Fields, and that would be different treatment under the law that equally applies to everyone. So this is something that these demons up at 4 o'clock in the morning, again, spiritually obsessed and monitoring me. And the entity is doing so, exhibiting severe mental illness. This is somebody that is never going to be permitted in my presence. This is somebody that I would never voluntarily have any contact with. This is a documented gang stalker, and anybody that's subject to stalking, you have the right to choose whether you ever want to communicate or be in contact with that stalker. Now, a gang stalker is somebody that's not just stalking you. Oh, they're gang stalking you with the whole government, a whole operation that's designed to make you look crazy while they are in fact stalking you, and also trying to drive you to a point of mental instability so that you can be kidnapped and kept into an asylum when you are for no reason whatsoever dragged into court upon criminal defamation, being accused of a crime or being accused of upon criminal summoning. In other words, the entity will, under one way or another, get you into a circumstance where they can kidnap you after they engage in targeting you for a prolonged period. You have a right to not ever be in contact with that person, and that person, that gang stalker, has no right under the law to ever force contact with you. And if they do, this is what justice is also going to provide to the target individual that prosecutes. They're going to be prosecuted. Now, those that are subject to federal prison, it's something that shouldn't even have the ability to occur, because that domestic terrorist should be in federal prison. They should be in a mental asylum in the first place. But covering all bases, somebody like Jason Isaac Fields will never be permitted in my presence. There will never be any professional or personal relationship. Duh. This is a pervert. This is somebody who's having sex with his mother. That's tantamount to having sex with Tracy Banks. This is somebody who was dysfunctional in every regard, okay? And this is somebody that I, under no circumstances, have anything in common with, and I will never have any contact with, because this person is spiritually attacking, is obsessed with me, is personally and mentally, emotionally, and spiritually dysfunctional and lost, does not make any sort of connection with me. This is nothing other than a demon that's spiritually attacking, period. And that's not even going to be permitted to continue. So I want to make sure that that's clear. This is what's happening at 4 o'clock in the morning. And this is shared with the entity that is still gang stalking. And what you will also see images, and so you'll see that this demon, Jason Isaac Fields, engaged in criminally defaming me, theft of my property, which is a threat to my life, while you steal my evidence and suppress it. That permits the psychopaths of the Ontario Police Department, the state, to continue threatening me, to continue engaging gang stalking, psychologically torturing me, harassing me, and engaging in retaliation while I documented my evidence is subjected to what is an ongoing cycle of simultaneous suppression and theft, and also the obstruction of justice. And that would serve the purpose, that serves the purpose of the government that would provide justice never getting word of what it is that you are trying to expose. That's a threat to your life, while they're acting in furtherance of trying to murder you, acting in furtherance of trying to drive you to a point of mental distress, snapping, if you will. The entity is obsessive in this ongoing endeavor, and I am reporting on it, and I'm also going to prosecute for it. And people like Jason Isaac Fields will never be permitted in my presence, and I will be enforcing my rights to the furthest extent of the law to make sure that that is the case. And he is not the only one. Every other documented gang stalker is equally in violation of the law were they ever to come into my presence. And that's just duh. Just like when you're prosecuted for traditional stalking. This is an automatic and readily understandable principle with regard to being prosecuted for gang stalking. And so it's just going to be under federal law. It's just that which is committed by the government, and that which is not going to be permitted to occur again following prosecution. The entity is doing so, I want to be clear, inside of this apartment where the entity is targeting me, Tracy Banks is not ignorantly or accidentally leaving the front door unlocked. While I'm sleeping in the specific environment where the entity is gang stalking, I'm exposing law enforcement who are obsessively and aggressively and violently targeting me, which I capture on video in order for you to understand what law enforcement is doing in this country, and is not serving to protect and benefit us. It's serving to keep us under surveillance and have the highest, most advanced means of technology to do so, targeting us and invading our privacy in unprecedented means, like we are in warfare. We are a part of what is warfare that you're ignorant about being involved in, but that's exactly what law enforcement agencies are using technology for, to keep us under surveillance, and they engage in what is targeting me more so in a more aggressive and violent manner than is already the case with regard to psychological torture and gang stalking via the people of the state, with the people of the state. Tracy Banks is leaving her front door open, and I'm finding this as I wake up, and I'm subject to ongoing gang stalking and also spiritual attack by a bunch of obsessed psychopaths who are spiritually attacking, and this, including this demon, who is again keeping the front door open, and any gang stalker, including the entity that's gang stalking as a corrupt police department, walking right in through the front door, controlling that narrative, suppressing my evidence, and creating some sort of storyline regarding what happened to me. All right. This is understanding the threat that is posed by the entity that engages in this sort of narrative all the time and taking the life of the targeted individual, where there is no accidents in a system of surveillance. There's no mysteries amongst the system of surveillance where the entity is targeting an American citizen as well. So I took a picture of that. You will see the front door unlocked. I have no reason to engage in waking up, getting up, leaving the door unlocked, and then taking a picture of it and then making up a whole story about, oh, she left the front door unlocked. I don't have to make up these details, and I also don't have to make up the fake sun. I don't have to make up police departments stalking me in helicopters, a very obvious method of targeting, as I've captured from venue to venue, police department to police department, sheriff's department to sheriff's department as well. This is the circumstances that I'm faced with. This is a threat to my life as well. So that's what you'll see uploaded to the Google Drive. And this is relevant to the entity that's not conducting any legitimate investigation. The investigation is ongoing monitoring. The investigation is ongoing withholding, prolonging of justice that I single-handedly demonstrated I am entitled to. The entity that's investigating the claims about who I am and what I'm doing, that's the entity that's been gang stalking the whole time. It's no mystery about whose intellectual property this is. It's no question about who is targeting who. It's no question about who is gang stalking with the government, the same government that's engaging in what is targeting and monitoring, not investigating. All right. And while I'm in this apartment in the middle of the night and the entity is engaging in what is obsessively stalking on a ceaseless basis outside of the apartment, and as Tracy Banks and the demons inside of the apartment building demonstrate, inside of the apartment and inside of the apartment building. All right, leaving the front door unlocked for any state actor to engage in. And remember, the state actors are the people of the state and the state acting directly. This is government action. This is breaking down that whole farce with regard to private citizens and public officials, private speech, and the entities engaging in surveillance, and it's satanic, and they're sharing presence in that environment. They're sharing activity creation in that environment, which is designed to monitor, which is to keep under surveillance. These are state actors that would walk into Tracy Banks' apartment where she intentionally keeps the front door unlocked, where I am exposed and vulnerable to any type of harm, which is what she preys upon. Okay, it is currently 5:42 a.m. on May 17, 2025. This is P.O.C. All right, documenting the ongoing maintenance of amplified noise following the demons being documented, which is the pattern of conduct. So the entity is now engaging in the amplified booming following the video documentation of them all monitoring my vagina in the bathroom, where they were maintaining amplified noise in the bathroom area. And now the amplification of audible activity is occurring in the living room. That's called stalking with activity. They're literally following me around in the apartment with amplified noise. And they are the demon possessed who are stalking by residents. So they who are going to federal prison, includes they in units 33 through 64, are together engaging in that monitoring system. They who are stalking with amplified noise, that's following me around inside of the apartment, which is also psychological torture, is the problem of Daryl J. Carter. He's going, the AVANATH Capital Management, I am going to prosecute them very intensely in federal court. This is understanding what American citizens are entitled to when you are being kept under surveillance by the population, which the government has there is no constitutional authority for the government to do this under any circumstances, let alone directly engaging in surveillance through law enforcement itself. And also when you are subject to surveillance and you're at, for example, the Transitional Assistance Department, the Human Services Department, the county office, in other words, and they're engaging in monitoring. That's surveillance by the government as well. The government has no warrant or probable cause, no constitutional authority whatsoever. It does not exist to engage in surveillance. The entities engaging in what is not just a surveillance, it's demonic, it's psychological torture, and it's pursuant to what is this satanic spirit that is operating over people is engaged in what is voyeuristic endeavors. So they are monitoring, they're obsessively stalking, they engage in more of that sick behavior while it's no longer a secret. I'm exposing names, companies, organizations, government bodies, public officials by name and position that is directly affected by exposure of gang stalking in that city, by that government, with that population, in that neighborhood, at that apartment complex, at that address, by that company, by those employees, et cetera, et cetera. The entity's engaging in this, and it's 10:08 a.m. The entity is stalking with amplified noise as I begin recording. The entity immediately before I start recording, this is at approximately 10:05 a.m., amplified booming, the entity inside of the apartment. The entity doing so approximately 2.5 minutes before that. So that was at or around 10:04 a.m. This is again following this amplified audible activity, which is prosecuted as criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, where the people of the state are engaging in surveillance with the government on behalf of the government. And they're engaging in what is very sick. They are engaging in surveillance of the evidence exposing that they are engaged in surveillance. Very sick, very depraved, very perverted, very disturbing, very depraved. These are the demon-possessed who are engaging in criminal activity that they're going to be prosecuted for, and also that they're going to be charged for. I'm going to drain the pockets of a corrupt third party such as AVANATH, who's a gang stalker. Because they're in California, everybody's engaged in monitoring California, and the pattern of conduct, the evidence shows that. But AVANATH is also a gang stalker because its property is a facilitating venue, and the property owners are not ignorant about that. They know. That's their gang stalking, and they know that their property is being used as a facilitating venue where gang stalking is underway, just like is the case where the entity is engaged in surveillance throughout the state of California. And also AVANATH is a gang stalker because its employees are gang stalking, which AVANATH also is aware of that. You don't have all of these coincidences, and every aspect of the entity is ignorant about the other, and it just so happens that all aspects of that entity is how you're engaging in that pattern of conduct. That's absurdly unreasonable. The entity, but nonetheless, the evidence is already establishing what is the P.O.C, and you will be held accountable regardless of whether you're encountering, which you will, a lot of delusional psychopaths. That's why they're gang stalking, okay? That's why they're engaging in this, because of the depravity, the sickness of their minds. But they are engaging in what is the outright denial or claiming ignorance. I didn't know that my property, I didn't know that my employees, I didn't know that the residents, I didn't know that the city was flying over. Nobody reported it. Nobody called the corporate. We didn't know the target individual was in the apartment. The P.O.C. directly rebuts all of that. It's already proven that the entity is not only engaged in intentional, malicious, deliberate conduct, but engaging in more of it as it's documented, which they are also demonstrating knowledge about it being documented in real time. In addition to that, with regard to the people of the state, you shall be accountable for that which you are facilitating, whether you want to admit to facilitation or not. It's not based on that. You're being gang stalked while you're living in an apartment. That property management company, that property owner is going to be prosecuted, period. This is disincentivizing the system of how it's existing. The people of the state are monitoring, surveilling with the government. And companies being held accountable, the people of the state being held accountable in a way in which justice requires and in a reasonable manner, you're going to be required to do your due diligence. But I'm going to be clear, Daryl J. Carter and AVANATH Capital Management, they've been profiting off of this system throughout California for a long time. So paying me damages and being prosecuted and prosecuting and exposing that company name is well within and not even adequate with regard to all that justice is going to entail. All right, but the entity is doing so. LYNDA Reyes is going to federal prison. I'm recording this because the entity is engaging in what is harassment. The psychopaths engage in more of the pattern of conduct while you document them. This is what they were doing. This is why I captured the video, and that's why when I opened the door, plain activity is sounding. A demon in unit number, what would be 40... Let me see, 40, I could look right outside, see what apartment number that was. She was a Caucasian. She's looking right outside of the window. She's gang stalking in the path. Unit number 46 is stalking in the path and doing so very easily by going in the apartment window. I'm just looking for something, whatever it is. She could look out the window and hold up her, she could be flashing somebody on the sidewalk. She's stalking in the path, and she's doing so while I'm walking through the front door, while the entity is sounding plain activity, while engineer light is coding everything. Engineered lights. None of this is sunlight. The fake sun is covered up. On a cloudy day, impossible light activity is covering everything. It does not change. This is the same state of the affairs at nightfall. The entity is monitoring, and the entity was stalked with amplified noise in the bathroom when all of the demons who are mad because they're exposed as sex offenders are engaging in sexual violence again. And this is indicated by the amplified noise that's occurring after my panties are pulled up and the entity engages in surveillance in that private space for no legitimate purpose and having no legitimate interest, both as the people of the state, sex offenders, and the government, sex offenders. The entity is doing so, and as I step outside and gather video, that's when you're understanding the significance of the plain activity. This, even if I hadn't pulled my panties down. But the fact that I did, you need to understand that they're sex offenders. That's what they're doing. You're going, it's an extra step to create amplified noise. You're already creating activity when you go in the bathroom, when you are closing the door, when you're turning on the lights, when you're flushing the toilet, when you are, that's all activity creation. The demons who are very sick and depraved, they go to the extra mile. And to who is that harming? These old perverts are going to prison. They're all losing their housing. Where are they going to live? Guess what? That's not the government's problem. And the government's not going to support domestic terrorists. You're going to figure it out on your own. But I know you won't get past no credit check without this coming up. Domestic terrorists, and that the fact that you're a prosecuted, a convicted sex offender, because that's exactly what's going on your record, over 55 years old. Good luck with that. The entity is engaging in what is gang stalking and domestic terrorism, and when you're getting out of federal prison, if you make it out alive, they're all over 55. You're not getting past any background credit check with that on your record. So like I said, unless they have, but that's not likely the case when they're sitting around collecting government with no jobs at 55 years old, gang stalking a federal prosecutor who is detailing and dissecting everything that they're doing so that the rest of the world can understand the malicious pattern of conduct by the demon-possessed who target innocent American citizens and sexually prey upon them in very perverted and sick, just gratuitous methods. Why would you do? All I'm going to do is capture video. Daryl J. Carter, AVANATH Capital Management, LYNDA, all these people who don't want their names dragged into sexual violence. But that's what you're doing. And that's exactly what you're going to be prosecuted for. These are the mentally ill, psychopaths stuck in a cycle of behavior that's very sick, very predatory, very violent, very aggressive, very passive aggressive as well. They're doing so to their own demise. I am not the targeted individual that's going to end up kidnapped. Everybody is being prosecuted. And that return to sender includes you losing your job, your position, your reputation, your entire career, not just your job, your career in many instances, your ability to ever again secure housing. However, that's not the target individual's problem. And that is not a legitimate concern of American citizens who have a constitutional and human right to not be subject to this sort of terrorism in this country. It's not the concern about where a bunch of terrorists are going to live when they are homeless, when they get out of prison, when they have a diagnosis for severe mental illness that inspired their gang stalking behavior. This is going to be unknown about what's going on in the country. It's not going to be mystery or secret anymore. And it's going to follow them in the same way that they are incessantly and obsessively following me. That record is going to follow them. That record is going to follow them in the same way that they're following me around in this apartment with impossible audible activity and then doing more of it because they're mad and what type of sick person, that type of sick person that's mad because you're being exposed and prosecuted like justice requires, like the Lord God has decreed is going to happen, and no manner of harassing me is going to stop that. In fact, you're intensifying your judgment. That entity is the one that belongs in the circumstances of confinement. They belong in that position, that controversy with regard to public knowledge about what an entity has been doing for decades in the state of California. That entity belongs out of a position where they can't be next door or neighbors to unsuspecting American citizens. Those that aren't demons, those that think that when they're using the bathroom and when their kids are taking baths, that they don't have cameras and all manner of surveillance by the neighborhood police department, keeping their babies and keeping them under surveillance, stalking them, monitoring, taking their body measurements and seeing whether they're going number 1 or number 2, how many times they wipe themselves, how frequently they take a shower. All of that's sickness. Because that's what they're doing when they're monitoring. That's how obsessed the demon-possessed are. That's how intimately acquainted Satan is with you and your ways. Satan is using people. Satan is engaged in criminal conduct while those people are in positions of government. Okay, so the entity is doing that. That sounding of amplified noise inside of the bathroom, like I documented, is why I stepped out to get video. That simultaneity of activity creation while I'm walking out the front door, that's attributed to plane activity, that's assigned to the government, because the people of the state ordinarily don't have access to planes. The entity is nonetheless, you're getting to what is semantics. The people of the state are a state actor vicariously. The state itself is directly engaging in state action. It's the same entity. The entity is going to produce evidence about the details that I've exposed. They don't have a choice. It's going to happen. This is pursuant to what is bathroom monitoring. It's 10:17 a.m. This is documentation of impunity, malice, obstruction of justice, harassment, psychological torture, and under the Violence Against Women Act, it's referred to as what is technical abuse, pursuant to surveillance that I'm subject to on the internet and via devices, communication devices, where the government's engaged in surveillance, which the people of the state are stalking while they're engaging in surveillance with that government. And that's how the intersecting federal laws are going to operate in order to prosecute and also disincentivize gang stalking amongst the corrupt civilian population, which are the people of the state in California. It's 10:18 a.m. This is P.O.C. It's 10:50 a.m. The entity amplifying amplification of loud booming. I'm wearing headphones listening to content, so the entity is engaging in what is harassment by virtue of the volume, and it's designed for you to hear. So even when you're listening to content, and this is all demonic. So the entity is engaging in what is and this is remember the setting, a senior citizen complex. So the entity is engaging in what is amplified audible activity and amplified booming inside of the apartment, and it's notable that I am currently updating of information regarding domestic terrorism and psychological torture by the gang stalkers using helicopters that include actors such as who you've seen, and they showed you themselves what domestic terrorism looks like, and who's required to go to federal prison for it, the Ontario Police Department. And I'm editing what is San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department under the corrupt leadership of what the former county sheriff, which was John McMahon, and then as of what is 2022, Shannon Dykes, okay, who is a group stalker and is engaged in the pattern of conduct as well, and a repeat kidnapper, with the demons of the Ontario Police engaged in criminal defamation. So there are people that are very much going to prison. While I'm editing it, the demons are triggered. They're engaging in surveillance. They engage in the pattern of conduct of stalking with light, amplified noise, pacing around all around inside of the apartment like Tracy does, above the apartment like the demon of 55 does, and the demons outside of the apartment, pacing all around in the parking lot on the side. All they're doing is pacing and monitoring me. It's very psychopathic what the mentally ill do in this specific environment when they're monitoring one person together. It's 10:51 a.m. This is Criminal Interference with Quiet Enjoyment. All right, just to be noted, the entity like I'm documenting when this demon is monitoring at 4 o'clock in the morning, clearly not sleeping, while obsessing over me, monitoring me in my sleep, like the unconstitutional and inhumane system of gang stalking operates. This state actor, this demon, Jason Isaac Fields, is, I want to be clear, someone that is monitoring me and somebody that's engaged in the criminal pattern of conduct in concert with the entity that's targeting me in relevant position. All right, in the specific environment, in concert with his sex partner, Tracy Banks, as well. And I also want to state that as I'm documenting Jason Isaac Fields, who's engaged in what is ongoing psychological torture, this is someone that is representing themselves as being some sort of government official. This government official is exposed to being prosecuted. And this government official is somebody that's entirely engaged in illegitimate and unlawful behavior. Never mind the fact that this is somebody that's engaging in what is satanic, stalking in the spirit, monitoring in the spirit. This is what the demon possessed do when they're gang stalking in relevant position, and then they also engage in psychological torture. Jason Isaac Fields, regardless of whether this is actually somebody that is holding a position in government, and I mean, you cannot be too surprised, I surmise, those that are learning that the government is, you're learning conclusively as opposed to what are conspiracy theories out there. They throw ideas out. They refer to theories about what the government may have done or things that, we've heard about doing, but nobody has put out hard evidence about what conclusively and irreversibly about what is going on with the government regarding things such as what is monitoring and surveillance and whether we, all of these topics. The P.O.C. is not speaking to a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy theory is that which is not substantiated with evidence. It's not that which can be established as a fact. It's essentially speculation, a lot of anecdotal information. The P.O.C. is speaking to what is surveillance under all accounts, and it's also exposing what is the satanic, what is demonic, what is the inevitable acknowledgement, reality of the spiritual realm, where the government is very much aware of that reality, and the government is engaging in the use of demonic things in order to target people that are in this country. The government is doing that with full knowledge and maliciously aware of the supernatural feature regarding targeting someone in ways that defy their understanding or their ability to articulate or understand it. And that's what's so egregious about what the government is doing. So I want to get to what Jason Isaac Fields is engaging in. This is somebody that is engaged in what is ongoing harassment. He's engaged in federal stalking. He is gang stalking. He's gang stalking, period. Gang stalking includes both the monitoring conduct that I'm showing is ongoing in relevant position, and it's also ongoing with regard to the ongoing monitoring by demons. And these are demons who are obsessively consumed with everything that I'm doing, everything that I'm revealing, everything that I speak to, I document, everything that I expound upon and break down in detail for the world to understand not only what I'm subject to, but also what you are subject to, what you're surrounded by, and unbeknownst to you. You don't even know about what you are surrounded by on a daily basis, and that is something that must change. And it is for your benefit, for your information, for your education, for your safety. This demon, Jason Isaac Fields, representing himself while he's engaged in obsessively monitoring is, again, engaged in what is theft of my ideas, theft of my property, engaging in what was a whole satanic kingdom spouse situation ship, like failed baby dad. I don't know what him and his mother by basically having sex with my mother. He's having sex with the mother figure. So this person is entirely dysfunctional, serious issues. And that's also known because he's engaged in demonic activity, witchcraft, by spiritually attacking and literally spiritually monitoring. This type of stalking behavior, which is equally disturbing, is somebody that's not going to be permitted in my presence to just stalk me right in front of my face. So this is absurd. I want to document it because I'm exposing everything about what a bunch of demons are doing. And I'm also exposing it with regard to prosecuting them for it. Jason Isaac Fields is a part of this monitoring that's ongoing. And this is somebody that is abusing a government position and is under the false impression that you can monitor me. I'm talking about myself, that you can monitor me and harass and just be a demon, and that somehow that's going to result in me changing my mind and denying the reality of Christ Jesus and having anything to do with somebody that has had vaginal anal sex with Tracy Banks, my mother, that conspired against my life, that engaged in what is threatening my life, is still targeting me, and that I would have anything to do with them, that I would share anything regarding what was a one-man mission. Jason Isaac Fields was engaged in gay sex while I was sleeping outside, being targeted by the Ontario Police Department. Okay, he was nowhere around when I'm subject to the P.O.C, and he's also engaged in targeting me now. So I want to make sure that I am putting it in those terms for a reason. This is somebody that is engaged in what is demonic. This is somebody that is engaged in what is conduct of the enemy. And this is something that is relevant because this person that is engaged in monitoring and is extending themselves as though he is some sort of government actor, like there's some sort of investigation. I want to be clear, even if there is an investigation, if Jason Isaac Fields is a part of the government that's engaging in that, Jason Isaac Fields is under no circumstances ever going to be permitted in my presence. And I've stated that before, and I'm going to reiterate it again. He is not distinct from what the demons are doing in relevant position. He is equally engaged in what is harassing and monitoring. The demons engaged in what is like ridiculous means of what is referring to songs that I'm not thinking about, that I'm not singing, I'm not mindful of, and they're conveying ideas that do not belong to me, and they're not shared by me, they're not welcomed by me, and they're not convincing or persuading me. Jason Isaac Fields is nothing other than a demon who was stalking in the spirit. He's obsessively watching my process as I'm documenting, and I'm subject. That's voyeurism. This person is sick. This is a demon. And this he's doing so while he is monitoring. And this is, again, everyone that has anything to do with theft of my intellectual property, any real property, any personal property, I'm going to prosecute them. They're not going to keep it. They're going to hand it over. And it's also going to be a matter of public information, their effort in doing so. And Jason Isaac Fields is so despicable. He's engaged in that. And he has been for years monitoring me and also bragging about while doing so, harassing and monitoring, gloating that he was going to be wealthy. He's been conspiring my demise for years. That's why he was engaged in a serious long-term sexual relationship of a satanic degree with Tracy Banks, thinking that he was going to be wealthy off of my death, off of theft from me, off of my kidnapping. All right, so he is not different from the Ontario Police Department, who was gang stalking me and monitoring in real time as well. And I want to make sure that I state that to the public. Demonic activity is very real. The spiritual realm is real. This is what the ordinary target individual is subject to and is ignorant about it. You're tormented by it. You're questioning yourself. You're questioning your life. You're questioning those that are around you. And it's something that is deliberately designed and calculated to create the circumstance whereby the entity is engaging in things such as taking your life, or causing you to engage in things such as and then engage in what is criminally defaming you, stating that you took your own life, or that there was some accident. This is how the entity engages in murder, or the entity is engaging in, no, it's not or, it's and or. However, the demons accomplish it when they're targeting American citizens, and the way that the entity has failed in accomplishing that with me. The demons that are engaging in and coming against me are those that are being exposed, and they're being prosecuted, and they are being plucked out of my life That is permanently. And that's including Jason Isaac Fields. This is somebody that will never have anything to do with what he first thought he was going to steal from me. So there will not be any cooperative or voluntary relationship, professional or otherwise, with me. That was forfeited when he engaged in sexual activity with my mom, sexual activity with all of my fake friends, engaging what is criminally defaming my character, my reputation, stealing from me, and repeatedly engaging what is kidnapping me. This is somebody that engaged in behavior of someone that hates my guts, and I never did anything to Jason Isaac Fields. I was nice to this sick person. All right. So this is somebody that is absolutely disgusting. He is despicable. And whatever government is enabling that, that is also an organization that I will have no affiliation with. And I stated that before. And if Jason Isaac Fields is indeed in a position, because this is what this demon is representing, that he's engaged in some, it's not an investigation. This is monitoring. This is sitting around studying what it is that I'm doing, just like all the rest of the demons that are obsessed with me and thought that they were going to gang stalk me into a grave. You're not different when you're sitting around studying my process, monitoring me, obsessing, salivating in the spirit when I'm sleeping, engaging in what is sexually suggestive ideas that don't belong to me. I'm not attracted to this person that has sex with Tracy Banks. He makes me want to puke. I cannot be any more clear than that. It is never going to happen. Nothing other than him being prosecuted is going to happen. And that is even something that he doesn't even have to be in my physical presence in order to accomplish. I want to make sure that I'm calling out, discussing, and demonic people like Jason Isaac Fields, who's engaged in harassment, who's engaged in psychological torture, who is engaged in what is absolutely satanic, and anyone like this person, Jason Isaac Fields, who's not walking with Christ. You will have nothing to do with what's going on in my life, my circumstances, and where I'm going in the future. And it's not going to be beside anyone that is in darkness. They're all being exposed and they're being prosecuted for gang stalking me. No demon that is monitoring is going forward with me. You don't know Christ Jesus in doing so. It is literally never going to happen. It is currently 11:04 a.m. This is P.O.C.